Hey everybody, Nick here with Shop Class 101, and today we're going to do a little video about my Malibu that you've probably seen around the shop, and some questions that other people have had about it, how long I've had it, and what's in it, and what am I going to do to it next. So let's take a quick tour. Quick history on this car. I've owned it since 1998, I believe. I'm the second owner. I bought it from my friend's grandma's friend when I was in high school, and it had a 305 and a metric trans, and in my high school auto shop at Whitewater, it got a transplant to a 350, and then a few more iterations of small block along the way, and we'll take you up front to see what it has now. Current engine combination is a Gen 6 454 motor. It's been bored 30 over and has a stroker crank in it. Comes out at 489 cubic inches. It's got a Chris Straub cam. I think those are Clay Smith variety. And then it's got a bow tie intake on it. Underneath there is a Holley 850 HP. And then roller rockers, and nothing too fancy about it. I think compression ratio calculated out to like 9.5 to 1. Not a huge cam. Has a MSD distributor that gave me a whole bunch of problems this summer and ended up with all Napa GM parts inside of it. Pretty standard V-belt setup. Got a radiator from Summit inside of there, kind of a generic one. And then it's got the Dodge Intrepid fan set up on the radiator there. Got those fans controlled by a thermostatic switch that's adjustable over here on the fender well. Let's see, it's got brakes with a Willwood adjustable proportioning valve. I think the master cylinder and booster are from like a 79 Trans Am. When we get underneath it, you'll see why. Interior here, it's got the old school 70s red. I've always liked this color. My friends have kind of a naughty name for it. B&M ratchet shifter, kind of a homemade gauge panel, thanks to my buddy Chad for helping me powder coat that thing. Had the headliner redone when I had the car painted about 10 years ago. Here's the back seat. Got a cigar burn from some prom 1998 festivities. Back here, you can see it's got some drag radials on it. And then all the factory chrome left on it. A lot of guys, when they build these cars, get rid of the Landau top. I'm kind of a sucker for Landau tops, so I found all the right trim and kept this thing in fairly standard look and shape, and I managed to fit everything underneath the stock hood, which was one of the goals on my most recent build with this car. Underneath it here on the hoist, you'll see it's got a champ pan with a kick out. That does clear the headers, and it also makes it able for me to sneak that oil filter in through there. Next to the headers with still gaining some oil capacity. It's got a Turbo 400 in it from Midwest Converters down in Rockford, Illinois. I've got a double hump cross member underneath it here, and my Amazon 3-inch stainless header back exhaust through some Amazon Total Flow mufflers, it looks like. I had a drive shaft made at Elkhorn Drive Shaft. They spec'd it out to hold 600 pound-feet of torque. And then that rear axle right there is out of a SN95 Mustang. It's a Ford 8.8. It came with disc brakes. Back in the day before you could readily buy a kit, I ended up having some upper control arms made from a guy on the Malibu racing forums. And then I made lower control arms with Heim joints for each side. Made some spacers on the lathe. We'll get you another view at the rear end here. Here's the back of that Ford 8.8. You can see the upper bushings I replaced with some poly ones. I've been considering going to spherical uppers on it. I got the torque boxes bolted in on the frame side. I think they're in the middle hole for my bolts up there. And then cover, homemade brake lines, obviously. And then, let's see. It's got wagon springs in the back and factory coils in the front. The big block holds it down pretty low. And then I think they're just some cheap shocks available from the parts store there. Here's a view of the disc brake setup on the Ford 88. I ended up getting some rims bought for it with the proper back spacing to fit it under the frame. You can see there's not a whole lot of clearance up against the frame, but with the adjustable control arms, I was able to make it all work. Here's a close-up of that Holley 850 HP. Got the dual inlet log there. Mr. Gasket fuel pressure gauge, back to a Holley fuel pressure regulator, and then down into, I think that's the Edelbrock high volume pump, high pressure pump. Over on the other side, we've got one of these newer style throttle cable brackets that I like because it clears the drop filter base pretty well. I do not use the kickdown cable on this thing. And otherwise, it's performed pretty well once I figured out the accelerator squirters, front and back, came kind of undersized for this car and how I wanted to launch it. I think I went from a 32 and 37 stock to they're both enlarged, and then I actually had to drill out those tiny squirters on there. I think they're at a size 44 now. Overall, after some tuning, I'm fairly happy with the car, but it seems to pull hard through the RPM range. Once I got the fuel figured out and then got the distributor curved how I wanted it, performance, I think this spring will do quite a bit better than last year. Don't have a lot of fuel in it here, but we'll see if we can't light a fire in it. Well, I hope you enjoyed the quick tour of my old high school car. If there's ever anything you'd like to see, feel free to drop your comment down below in the comments section. And if you like what you see, please consider subscribing. If you have any questions, make sure to ask them. Thanks for watching Shop Class 101.